Murat Siyavis lives in a world where talking can get you killed. A strange virus spreads through conversation, turning people into mindless speakers of nonsense. But for some reason, Murat can't be infected, no matter what. Now he's being followed by a secret agency, haunted by visions of a lost friend, and searching for answers about who he really is and why he's the only one who's immune. Murat is in the bathroom, checking his temperature and overall health. He gets scared whenever his temperature rises and feels shocked. To calm himself, he places a towel on his head. Then he plays an old cassette and begins recording a message about his recent experience with synesthesia. But before he can finish, the tape runs out of space and stops recording. Murat stays in the bathroom to rest. Later, Murat walks alone through the streets. A virus is spreading across the world, one that passes through conversation. It's called ARDS, but people often refer to it as jabbering. The first sign of infection is that people start speaking nonsense. The virus causes panic everywhere, and scientists are unable to find a cure. Infected people are placed in quarantine to protect those who are still healthy. However, Murat is different. He doesn't fall under the control of the AI and, strangely, he can't be infected by the jabbering virus, even if he tries. On his way to the bus stop, Murat sees a woman reading a book. He pauses and stares at her, even imagining himself walking up to her and starting a conversation. When he snaps out of his hallucination, he continues walking but stops again when he notices a flower on the ground. Before leaving, he tells the woman that no bus will stop there, but she doesn't respond. Murat walks away. Later, city soldiers announce a curfew in safe zones starting at 6:00 p.m. Hearing this, Murat quickly returns to his apartment, where he lives with his mother, Emil. He carefully unlocks the door and sets down a Sudoku magazine on the table. Emil is busy fixing something. Soon, she reminds Murat that they've run out of soap. Although he doesn't want to go out again, she insists, and before leaving, Murat fills in part of the Sudoku puzzle. At the bus stop, Murat finds a note from the woman he saw earlier. It reads, "A girl who waits for a bus that will never come." He also sees that the flower is still on the ground. Murat then heads to the market to buy soap. There's a sign at the market warning customers not to speak, as talking could spread the jabber virus. Suddenly, an old woman approaches Murat and starts speaking. At first, he ignores her and puts on his headphones, but then realizes she's infected with jabber. The shopkeeper warns everyone and quickly closes the door, trapping Murat and a young boy inside. As the old woman rambles nonsense, Murat acts fast. He gives the boy his headphones to block out the sound, then helps him escape by forcing open the shutter. Murat is left inside without headphones. The woman's voice begins to affect him, but after a struggle, he escapes through a window. Outside, Murat calms down and realizes he forgot his headphones, then rushes back home. Soon after, AEI officers arrive and take the infected woman away. Anton Cotter, the AEI chief, is informed by his teammate Serhat that someone without headphones saved a child and somehow didn't get infected. Surprised, Anton orders Serhat to pull the security footage. Murat starts hallucinating and sees Oscar, who urges him to turn himself into AEI, saying that would end his struggle. Oscar also blames Murat for giving the headphones to the kid. Frustrated, Murat shouts, but then his mother, Emil, calls him from behind, helping him calm down. That night, Anton goes through some files and talks to Captain Savet on the phone. He learns that the Project X team had strong evidence about the jabbers, but most of the members died either in a fire or due to the virus, except Murat, who is said to be smarter than the rest. The next day, Emil tells Murat they are visiting Makbul's house. Murat refuses, saying he doesn't want to go outside, but Emil encourages him to let go of his fears and reminds him that Makbul needs him. Suddenly, the power goes out, but Emil keeps talking, repeating her message. Meanwhile, at AEI headquarters, Anton attends a meeting. Serhat informs him that the powerful figure Fazil is around, so security has been increased. Serhat then shows Anton the supermarket footage of Murat. Makbul is happy when Murat and Emil arrive. Murat notices that Makbul's son is infected. The boy suddenly starts screaming, disturbing everyone. Makbul looks outside, then comes back and asks Murat if he can help. Murat replies that his friend Oscar is dead. Arif arrives and tells Makbul the entire village heard the boy's screams. Makbul becomes emotional and starts crying. Murat is upset to learn that Emil told them about his project and Oscar. Arif tries to convince Murat that Oscar might still be alive, reminding him that he never saw Oscar's body or funeral. Murat insists Oscar is dead, saying if he were alive, he would have found Murat by now. Arif says he doesn't have proof yet, but promises to find it. Later, Arif shows Murat a picture of Oscar's tattoo and a drug he used. Murat becomes slightly curious and starts wondering if Oscar might still be alive. When Murat and Emil return home, a security guard stops them at the entrance. Murat tells his mother to go inside. The guard returns the pine cones Murat had given him earlier, saying he can't risk helping anymore. Inside, Murat looks at a photo of his wife and Oscar. In a flashback, Murat is seen recording himself talking about a cure Oscar had researched. His wife interrupts him, takes the recorder, and starts speaking. She jokes that they're all nerds trying to change the world. Murat then says he should re-record and pretend it was all his idea, and he moves closer to her. Back in the present, Murat tells Emil that he has something important to do and leaves the house. He goes to the bus stop and leaves a note. Anton receives a report saying that Murat had visited the emergency room several times after the fire. The doctors noted that Murat had a high fever in his head, but the rest of his body remained normal. This detail shocks Anton. He then reviews thermal camera footage of Murad at the market and confirms that Murad's head showed abnormal heat levels. Realizing the significance, Anton urgently orders his team to find Murad. Meanwhile, Murad and Arif meet with Errol, who has access to AI information. Errol tells them that anything is possible, for the right price. Arif explains they need to find out if someone is still alive. Errol says he can help but demands more money than they can pay. Eventually, they make a risky deal to break into AI, and Murad decides to take the risk himself. At the same time, Anton and his team discover that the serial number of the headphones used by the boy matches Murad's name. Anton watches the video again and realizes that Murad seems to have a natural immunity to the Jabber virus. Anton then tries to speak with his boss, Fazil, and shows him the Project X file. He explains that Murad appears to have a rare immunity to the virus, but Fazil dismisses him and orders him to stop the investigation immediately. Ignoring the danger, Murad sneaks into the AI building and searches for a file under Oscar's name. But when he sees the photo inside, he knows instantly that the person isn't Oscar. The tattoo is missing. Murad tries to delete the file to hide what he saw, but the system fails, so he quickly escapes before anyone notices. Back home, Emil is being questioned by Anton and his officers. Without saying a word, she places a red pine cone on the window, a secret signal to warn Murad. When Murad sees it from outside, he immediately realizes something is wrong and escapes before they can catch him. AI officers continue searching for Murad, but he keeps moving and does his best to stay hidden. Meanwhile, Anton listens to a recording made by Murad. When he realizes Murad has escaped again, he becomes frustrated. Later, Murad waits in a lobby to meet with a psychiatrist. He starts telling a man nearby about his recent experiences. But the man gets scared, thinking Murad might be infected with the Jabber virus. He quickly puts on his headphones and is about to sound the alarm. Before he can, Erdem, the psychiatrist, steps in and stops him. At the same time, Anton questions Emil, asking how Murad knew the officers were in the house. Emil replies that maybe the officers just weren't careful. Anton searches the kitchen and other rooms, then asks where Murad went. Emil refuses to answer and reminds him that he needs a warrant to be inside their home. Anton then tells his team to collect Murad's belongings. Back with Erdem, Murad talks about Project X and Oscar. He explains that he has a special condition, but Erdem doesn't believe him. He thinks Murad is just mentally unwell. When Murad tries to leave, Erdem convinces him to stay the night. He tells Murad he made some Reiki and suggests they hang out and relax together. With the threat from the group plus one growing, Fazil started planning to build a new lab. At the same time, he found out that Anton had secretly ordered a search of Murad's house without permission. That made Fazil suspicious. He sensed Anton might have uncovered something important, so he quietly told Janan to keep a close watch on him. Meanwhile, Anton sneaks into a hidden area filled with infected people, without anyone noticing. On the streets, Murad sees police officers stopping people and asking for IDs. Just as he turns around, a sudden explosion happens. In the chaos, Murad uses the moment to escape. Later, Anton returns home but gets into an argument with his servant. She decides to leave and advises Anton to let go of everything he's holding on to. Elsewhere, Murad is trying to find a photo of Oscar's tattoo. A tattoo artist grabs him by the neck, thinking Murad is lying. Murad explains that he was Oscar's friend and shows him the drug packaging, which has the same tattoo design. The tattoo artist becomes angry, thinking his design was stolen. His girlfriend steps in and calms the situation. She tells Murad that he might find the pills in Zone 6. That night, Murad and Erdem have dinner. Murad tells Erdem that he's going to find Oscar. When Erdem asks why, Murad says that after finding Oscar, he plans to go to Zone 6. Erdem warns him that Zone 6 is dangerous and full of Jabber-infected people, but Murad insists on going. Suddenly, someone in the restaurant tricks everyone by saying there's a Jabber inside. Everyone panics and puts on headphones, but Murad stays calm. He doesn't even try to wear his. Meanwhile, Anton struggles with the decision to listen to Murad's recording, afraid he might get infected through it, but in the end, he chooses to listen. Later, Murad blames himself for his wife's death. Erdem gently tells him it wasn't his fault. She died because she was infected with the Jabber virus and encourages him to start a new life. Anton listens to a recording where Murad and Oscar talk about working with someone extremely dangerous, what they call a level 6 Jabber. Oscar believed this person might be the key to finding a cure for the semantic virus. After hearing this, Anton becomes even more determined to find Murad. Meanwhile, Murad falls into another hallucination. He sees the woman from the bus stop and experiences flashes of confusing moments, blurring the line between reality and imagination. The next day, Murad meets with Arif and tells him he's going to Zone 6 to search for Oscar. He hands Arif a plastic bag before leaving. Fazil confronts Anton, demanding to know why he hasn't dropped Murad's case. He scolds Anton for disobeying orders and says this behavior is part of his bad habits. Fazil warns him to stay out of it and tells him to submit a report about the investigation. Anton replies that he has no solid evidence to file. Meanwhile, Murad visits Errol and asks him for a fake ID. Errol agrees, and they settle on a price. Elsewhere, Emil finds the plastic bag Murad left with a note and translates the message. She then finds Murad at Makbul's house and tells him that AI has taken all of his belongings. She also finds out that Murad plans to go to Zone 6. When she warns him that officers are everywhere, he tells her he'll be using a fake ID. Murat becomes upset when he learns Emil had mistranslated the code on the plastic bag. That night, Makbul quietly gives Murat some money. Though hesitant at first, Murat eventually accepts it. The following day, Murat walks Emil home. She realizes the money Makbul gave isn't enough for what he needs. Just before parting ways, she takes off her necklace and gives it to him, asking him to keep it. As they go their separate ways, a nearby security guard spots them. Anton was growing more impatient. He told Serhat he still couldn't unlock Murat's file, and something about that felt wrong, like someone was hiding the truth. Their conversation was cut short when urgent news came in. Murat had been spotted near Emil's place. A security guard had tipped off AEI, and Anton didn't hesitate. He gathered his team and moved fast. At the same time, Murat met with Errol again. He needed help but didn't have enough cash. With no better choice, he handed over Emil's necklace as a promise he'd return it. Errol took it and quickly made a fake ID for him. Just as they were finishing up, AEI agents arrived. Murat and Errol scrambled to clean up and vanish. Anton, leading the search with Janan beside him, came close but Murat managed to slip away yet again. Meanwhile, Fazil sat alone, flipping through old photos from a fire long ago. As he stared at the images, memories returned. He had been there that night. The moment hinted that his past might not be as clean as he pretended. Later, Anton stepped into a dim room and lit 3 small candles on a birthday cake. Inside waited for his family. But they weren't themselves anymore, infected, hollow versions of who they used to be. The sight broke him, and tears fell. In a busy subway station across the city, Murat pushed through the crowd. Posters with his face were everywhere. He was now a top target. Fear started to rise, but then, out of nowhere, the girl from the bus stop appeared. She said nothing, kissed him gently, took his hand, and led him onto a train before anyone could stop them. The girl led Murat deep into the 6th zone, a place crowded with infected people. After weaving through the shadows, she took him to a quiet spot with a wide view of the city skyline. There, they finally spoke. She told him her name was Sul. Murat opened up a little, sharing his hope that she might help him find his missing friend, Oscar. But Sul had her own reason for bringing him. She worked with +1, a group searching for a cure, and they believed Murat might be the key. When she said this, Murat lost his temper. He didn't believe any of it. Calling her wrong, he stormed off in frustration. Still hoping to reach him, Sul made a risky move. She walked straight toward a group of jabberers, the highly infected. Seeing this, Murat panicked and ran after her, thinking she was in danger. But when he reached her, he saw she was wearing special earbuds to block the virus. Sul explained that people like her depended on this tech and they desperately needed his help. Even then, Murat stood his ground and refused to join their cause. Later, Sul visited a rundown warehouse, looking for someone named Arif. After getting directions from another woman, she carried a cardboard box into a back room, where Arif waited. He, too, was part of +1. Sul asked him about the person Murat was trying to find, but Arif kept quiet. He didn't trust her enough to share anything. Back in the 6th zone, Murat arrived at his place and found some old photos of his wife, Daria. As he looked through them, painful memories came flooding back. In one flashback, Daria looked scared while Murat tried to calm her. Then things blurred. He suddenly found himself lying in his old bed, pulled into another vision. This time, he saw Daria smiling on a treadmill, but blood was dripping from her. The image shocked him awake. Breathing heavily, he got up, still haunted by the hallucination. Elsewhere, Fazil sat down with another officer. He passed along Murat's file and carefully suggested that Murat might actually be Patient X, the central figure from the long-abandoned Project X. Fazil warned the officer they needed to get to Murat before Anton did. Sul, meanwhile, visited a hospital and met with a group of doctors. They asked if she had seen Murat. She said yes, but far from the hospital, Murat stepped outside his home, only to be suddenly grabbed by a group of unknown men and taken away. At AEI headquarters, Janan confronted Anton about the wanted posters of Murat. She criticized his decision, calling it reckless since Fazil would probably see them. Taking a firm stance, she told Anton she was now in charge of the case and accused him of being too afraid to face her properly. Right after their tense exchange, Anton received a message from Serhat. It was time to head to the restaurant where Murat's old psychiatrist, Erdem, was known to eat. Meanwhile, Sul stopped by an AEI drop-off spot in the 6th zone and left a note there. Then she visited an old house where an elderly woman named Susan was outside, firing a shotgun into the air to scare off some kids who had brought a cat into her yard. Inside, Sul let Susan know that she'd submitted the petitions, and asked her to tune into the radio that night. She planned to talk about Susan's grandson. Later, Janan updated Fazil. She told him that Murat had been caught on a subway surveillance camera. Fazil didn't react loudly, he just told her to keep a close eye on everything. As for Murat, the people who had taken him turned out to be from +1. He was still in their hands when a young woman named Asli, one of the group's leaders, prepared to confront him. Before things got worse, Sul appeared. She stepped in just in time, apologized for what had happened, and convinced them to let her take Murat away. On the way out, Murat showed them a bottle of pills and asked if they knew where they were being made. While walking together, Sewell tried to start over. She reintroduced herself and mentioned the letter Murat had left for her at the bus stop. She then invited him to join her on a live broadcast. During the session, they introduced a professor named Ken to the viewers. When the broadcast got more personal, Sewell shared a painful story from her past. She talked about a boy named Engin, her first love back in high school, and Susan's grandson. Their romance had been sweet and full of hope, but the epidemic changed everything. During a protest, they stood side by side, forming a plus sign with their arms as a symbol. But in a sudden, tragic moment, AI forces opened fire, and Engin was killed. The story hit Murat hard. The emotion in the room was heavy, but Sewell tried to ease the tension. With a small smile, she joked that her name meant school in German. Murat chuckled, and for a brief moment, they both forgot the world around them. Anton and Serhat arrived at a small restaurant where Erdem, Murat's old psychiatrist, was having dinner. Without wasting time, Anton cornered him and started pressing hard for answers about Murat. He was aggressive, giving Erdem no room to dodge the questions. Meanwhile, Sewell kept trying to convince Murat to help +1. She admired his intelligence and truly believed he might be immune to the virus. But Murat wasn't sure. He explained that every time he got near jabberers, his head would start to heat up, something he couldn't explain. Then he opened up more, revealing the real reason he was in the 6th zone. He believed that finding Oscar was the only way to understand who he really was again. Back at Anton's home, his young son had an accident. He hit his head and started bleeding. Anton rushed to help him. While he was focused on tending to the boy, someone was silently watching through the window. When Anton finally noticed the figure outside, he stepped out to confront them, but no one was there. Hidden nearby, Janan had been watching the whole time. She slipped away, returned to her car, and wrote down Anton's address. Elsewhere, Fazil held Murat's ID card in his hand and made a phone call. He demanded to know how the person on the line had gotten a hold of it. That evening, Murat and Sewell took a quiet walk. The air was cool, and they shared a rare peaceful moment. Murat showed her what happened to him near jabberers. His head warmed up unnaturally. Then, with a mischievous grin, he pretended to be infected, scaring Sewell for a second before admitting it was just a joke. She laughed despite herself. The next morning, Sewell introduced Murat to a group of +1 scientists. She had already told them he might be immune, and they were excited. But Murat shut them down quickly. He told them, without any sugarcoating, that they'd never find a cure. Still, Sewell wouldn't give up. She followed him, asking again and again for his help. At last, Murat said yes, but only if she helped him find Oscar. Sewell agreed, and Usli suddenly stepped in with a lead. The pills Murat had been carrying came from a hotel. Murat and Sewell made their way to the hotel and confronted the owner. He reacted with anger at first but eventually gave in and pointed them toward a woman named Yasemin. He hinted that she was the one who could connect them to whoever made the pills. Soon after, they spotted Yasemin arriving in a car. In a strange, almost mocking gesture, she swallowed a blue pill right in front of them. Before they could approach, she sped away, leaving Murat and Sewell stunned as she vanished into the distance. Murat found himself trapped in a strange, dreamlike world where he kept running without end. It was like his mind was lost and confused, showing how he felt inside. In real life, Murat and Sewell were driving together. On the way, Murat told her how his knowledge of old tape recorders once helped him avoid getting shot and stay ahead in his research on the infected, known as jabberers. Elsewhere, Fazil questioned Janan about where she had been and why she hadn't contacted anyone. Janan, who was focused on tracking Murat and driven by her doubts about Anton, asked to keep working on the case. At the same time, Anton spoke with Savet about someone he thought he saw outside his house. Savet told him it was probably just in his head, but Anton was sure someone had really been there. Because Murat couldn't find a place to stay in the 6th zone, +1 offered him a room at their base. Sewell promised he could stay as long as he needed. Later, Murat mentioned he needed recording tapes, so Sewell took him to a nearby market. While they were at the market, Yasemin appeared. She hinted that Oscar might still be alive. Then she tested Murat by asking him a few math questions, and he answered them with ease. Impressed, Yasemin gave him a phone and warned him it would ring only once. If he missed the call, he'd lose his chance to learn more about Oscar. Back at AEI, Janan asked Serhat what he was planning. He casually said he had something going on with Anton. Later, while they were driving, Serhat repeated the conversation to Anton. Anton, sensing something wasn't right, quickly told him to stop the car. Meanwhile, Murat began to settle into life at +1. The team welcomed him, including Arif. Murat asked how Arif's mother was doing, and Arif said she was okay, which gave Murat some relief. Elsewhere, Janan snuck into Anton's home. She searched his things and found some of Murat's tapes. As she looked deeper, she came across a hidden room and inside were Anton's infected family members. Just then, Anton caught her and pointed a gun at her. In that intense moment, Anton showed her a paper Murat had written long ago. It said the jabbering symptoms could start in children, but the article had been hidden to stop people from panicking when the virus first broke out. Anton's thoughts went back to the early days of the outbreak. When children started showing signs, fear spread across Istanbul. Riots broke out, and people lost control, terrified for their families. Later, Murat asked Sewell about +1's plan to hold a public rally. Even though AEI had banned them, Su'ul didn't agree with the idea. She said it was risky and could hurt their cause. She also told Murad about a secret group inside +1 called Hawkwing that had grown stronger since public rallies were no longer allowed. The Hawkwing, led by Osley, had broken away from the rest of +1. They stopped following the group's original mission to help the infected and search for a cure. Instead, they focused on fighting back against AEI, acting without permission and ignoring peaceful plans. Murad and Su'ul went to meet Yasemin, but before they could find Oscar, they had to solve a set of riddles. When they got to her, Yasemin handed them another one. Murad figured it out quickly, which led them to a locker. He guessed the password was Oscar's favorite scientist, and it worked. Inside, they found a sheet covered in numbers. Elsewhere, Janan asked Anton about his family. He shared the pain they went through, especially what his wife faced when their son got infected. But the conversation turned dangerous. Anton suddenly pulled a gun on her and told her to get on her knees. Scared, Janan begged for her life and promised she wouldn't expose his secret. Murad looked closely at the number sheet. He realized 1919 referred to the year a captain sailed to Samson. The other numbers matched an old ferry schedule, which led him and Su'ul to a shipyard. In another flashback, Anton remembered a heartbreaking moment. His wife Azra, unable to watch their son suffer, removed her own protective gear. Both of them got infected that day. At the shipyard, Murad and Su'ul found a ship named Jirusu, the same one tied to the 1919 clue. Then Yasemin called and told them to meet a guide. The man showed up and ordered them to take off their clothes for a security check. After they did, the guide separated them, taking Su'ul away. Back at AEI, Anton let Janan live. Right after, she went to Fazil. She told him Anton had been hiding evidence and gave him subway footage. She also mentioned she believed Murad was hiding in the 6th zone and knew someone who might help. When Fazil asked if the original evidence was safe, she told him it was. Later, as Janan was about to get into her car, Fazil played audio recordings, ones designed to infect her. Meanwhile, Murad had been taken to a hidden location. He was told he had to go through a maze full of jabberers to rescue Su'ul. Even though he was scared and confused, he pushed forward, but as he moved through the maze, his fever got worse. His head felt like it was on fire, and he kept losing focus. While stumbling through the maze, Murad heard Su'ul's voice but couldn't stay awake. When he finally opened his eyes, someone familiar was standing in front of him. It was Oscar. With a smile, Oscar called him Hot Skull and joked that Murad hadn't changed at all.